And now I'm delighted to introduce Raquel Said. Raquel is the CEO of Nutri V, a relatively new organization in Victoria. And so, Raquel, I'm delighted to ask you to share your screen and tell us all about what you're doing.
Sure thing. Is that visible to everyone? Can you see that?
Yes, yes, we can.
Thanks, Robin. So first of all, hi everyone. My name is Raquel. It's a pleasure to be here speaking to you also. Thank you for the invitation. I'm going to talk about the food loss and food waste from a slightly different perspective, and that is more in the agricultural space. Based on the poll at the beginning, I'm not sure how big my audience is at this point, but hopefully by the end of this, we can get your minds racing and thinking about some other initiatives that can be put in place from a different side of the food chain, and that is right at the very beginning. So a little bit about who we are. So Nutri V are a food manufacturing business. We're a collaboration between a national farming company called Fresh Select and the CSIRO. So Fresh Select owns about 80% of Nutri V, and the final part being the CSIRO. So our partner business being Fresh Select, or parent, I should say, grow, harvest and process roughly 24 lines of vegetables for Coles nationally. Their farm is based in Victoria, in Werribee South catchment area, and they've actually also got supplier farms that produce produce for them all across the country. So our mission, plain and simply, is to see 100% of what is planted being used, and anything that is not suitable and graded for retail converted into nutritious, delicious foods and ingredients that will not only help convert some of that food waste into usable product, but also increase vegetable consumption and help support feeding our population. And what we know is a staggering need to actually produce more food for the amount of people that we have in the world with the same resources. So that's a little bit about us. Look, the greatest challenge of the farm at the moment, and what we're seeing just really driven our reason for being, is our on-yield issues on the farm, so that lead to significant food loss and food waste. So if you think about it, I know that Robin put up a slide earlier about there being about 14% of food that is gone from harvest to retail lost. On our farm in particular, we can see anything up to about 20% of what is planted being lost. But I know that, station by station, farm by farm, that can vary quite a bit. Our farms do grow for retail, so there are a very certain specification that the product needs to look like. So we do classify food waste and food loss specifically on our farm. So there are various levels of where we think in the production line we can have an impact. To begin with, on the farm, we consider that food loss. So if there is a broccoli head or a cauliflower head, for example, that is too big, too small, or has a blemish on it, our pickers know that it simply is not suitable for retail, so it gets left in the field without being processed. So we consider that food loss. It goes back into the land. There is no value for farmers at that point. Second of all is food waste. So this is in the processing of food. So when we are harvesting our food for processing, so that might be cutting it into halves, the excess leaves needing to be trimmed, there's a significant amount of that produce that will then go to waste. So, whether it's animal feed or landfill, there isn't a great deal of need for that produce, which unfortunately then goes to waste. We see in peak summer periods, when we've got a high production throughput through our processing chains, anywhere between 15 to 20 tonnes of this leaf matter, for example, that goes on the back of a truck without a home. So that's pretty devastating to see, and we've hopefully come up with some solutions to be able to divert that waste. And I know that Robin's already also mentioned some of the more social aspects of our why, but we are feeding a growing population. I think it's something like 71% of food production needs to increase by 2050 to be able to feed our population with the same resources. So anything that can be diverted that we can repatriate is a job well done. And then to bring it closer to home, I think roughly 94% of Australians don't eat enough vegetables, and it could be even more for kids. So, we're recommended to have 5 serves a day. I think the average might be around 2 or 3 for us Australians. So anything that we can do to sneak a few more vegetables into people's diet is part of our mission. I mean, how can we make an impact, and how are we trying to solve this problem? First and foremost, we are working with our farms to redesign their farming practices. So number one, we are moving towards a 100% crop yield model. Everything can be picked. There's no such thing as ugly veg. Susie, you mentioned a little earlier that more of the vegetables should be used, or more of the produce should be used. So we don't discriminate against leaves and stalks and excess vegetables. All of that is perfectly edible and perfect, like right for our processing. What we then had to do is in order to drive that solution is match the right technology to be able to process the vegetables, to be able to dehydrate them, and essentially our end goal is to put them into a powder form. And what that does is that extends the shelf life, but naturally every vegetable is different, and trying to find a solution or a drying solution to be able to take it from its raw form into a dry form was part of the solution and the discovery that we went upon as a business. What was really important to us is that understanding that it's not just our farm that has this waste issue. This solution goes way beyond the Freshlex farms, and we believe and would like it to be expandable across various growing regions across the country. So we know that the salad bowl region of Werribee South has significant amount of farmland, as does various regions that we have see a lot of food waste and food loss as well. So what are we doing about it? We've developed a really exciting process where we're able to process the vegetables. So what we do is, after they've been harvested, I should specify in the farm stage when we're harvesting them, think of it like 2 bins. So you've got one bin that all the retail produce goes in, and then the other bin that products would otherwise not have been able to be saved. Sorry, my slide just went a little bit faster than I needed to go just then. What we do is process those vegetables and those excess leaf matter into vegetable powders. So we wash them and we dry them, and this is where we've gotten a really nice amount of help from the team at Sustainability Victoria. We received a grant to be able to produce a vegetable processing hub that's got the capability of drying over 2,000 tonnes of vegetable matter a year. So our farm can't necessarily do all of that much, which is why we need the support of other farms in the area to be able to throughput that product. If you break down those numbers, if we've got that much tonnage of raw produce, let's assume that a vegetable powder in its dry form, if a serve of veg in its raw form is 75 grams, a serve of veg on dry form is roughly 6 or 7 grams, depending on the kind of vegetables that you can use. So if you're picturing what does that look like, it might be a tablespoon of vegetable powder. So that will relate to around 365 tonnes of vegetable powder produced, which will give us an extra 60 million serves of vegetables that are available for upcycling within the community. So we see these vegetable powders as being available for both B2B and B2C opportunities. The business to consumer is something that we're working on. So I'll give you an example of that in just a second. Business to business, the vegetable powders work really fantastically as like a flour replacement. So if you've got food manufacturers working on, innovation, better for you health food products, whether it's breads, baked goods, pastas, yogurts, etc. We're currently working with some really big food manufacturers in that sort of testing phase to see how can we include more vegetables in our food that have all come from this fantastic waste stream and what would have otherwise have gone to waste. Often when we talk to food manufacturers about what we're doing and the vegetable powders that we're creating, they say, oh, well, hang on a second, what can I actually do with that? What can we do with these vegetable powders? So we set it upon ourselves to really prove our theory and show an example of how they can be used in a food product. So what we've created is Nutri V goodies. So these are a snack food. So think of it like a healthy chip that will be on shelves in the next couple of months. We've got these 3 products here. So they're crunchy broccoli puffs, cauliflower puffs, and pumpkin puffs. So essentially these use our ingredient as well as various other ingredients in there to create a healthier for you snack option. So there are 2, oh, I don't know why my thing's going so quickly. Sorry, guys. What they have done, or what we've been able to do, is squeeze a whole 2 serves of vegetables per pack. Each pack size is about 100 grams. I know what you're thinking. Are they going to taste like actual vegetables, and is that going to be delicious or not? You know, if you like vegetables, you'll probably like these, but we've been able to work with some local flavor houses to be able to flavor them in a way that, you know, make them really satisfying after a long day at work, or if you're looking for that, you know, after work beer or wine, it works really well too, or that 3 p.m. snacking craving that you're having. They're pretty delicious. So this is part of the innovation that we think is a really great example of how we can take something that otherwise would have gone to waste and turned it into an upcycled product. We are also working with the CSIRO in other forms of patented ingredients that are going to be launched, you know, in the next couple of years. So this is sort of exciting longer lead project stuff that works on the fantastic matter of the vegetables when they are at that dry basis. We can see that broccoli, for example, once it's dried, has up to 25% protein content, for example. So that's up there with your wheys, it's up there with your pea proteins. So as a functional ingredient to be fortified into food, we think that there's a really great opportunity to be able to fortify foods to make them better for you and healthier, again, from a waste stream. So that's a pretty exciting prospect, we think. So I've got my email address up there. I'd love to chat with anybody that's got any questions or any opportunities. We're certainly looking to work with different vegetable farmers, as well as, now I've got to figure out how to stop sharing this, working with other vegetable farmers as well as businesses to be able to include the powders in some way, shape or form in business. So that's a little bit about our business and what we're doing from me. Yeah, and then I'll stop sharing because I think I've just figured out how to do it. Very good.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful presentation, Raquel, and also really good to see lots of different approaches. My first question was going to be, how do I get my sons to eat more vegetables? But you answered that in your last slide. So you're preempting. I think you can probably take orders down the attendee list already. It was fascinating, though, to see that concept of 100% crop yield. Like that alone is extraordinary, and to have those 2 bins to going into, you know, saleable retail or reusable Nutri V is a really great way of stopping this. And we've looked at different ends of the supply chain here, so really good to see that approach. And just linking what Susie was saying and what you were saying, there are such things as big and ugly recycling bins, but no such thing as ugly vegetables. We just need to make that very clear.